Welcome back to the Deep End, everyone. You are listening to a very special edition of our Deep Dive series.
It's wonderful to be here.
We're stepping back into a specific, and I have to say, a very high-impact framework today that we're calling building humans. And this isn't just about parenting tips or life hacks. It's a fundamental, and honestly, it can be a somewhat confronting look at how we interact with the developing minds of children.
It really is. I think confronting is the right word. It forces us to stop functioning on autopilot and really look in the mirror.
It absolutely does. And right at the top, I want to give credit where it's due. This whole deep dive is brought to you in collaboration with the Al Mahaba Foundation and the Dar el Kalima Publishing House.
Two fantastic organizations.
We are pulling directly from their archives, specifically looking at the philosophy of Maria Montessori and, well, the science of human formation.
And we should probably warn the listeners, the text we are analyzing today is not what I would call light reading.
No.
It's transformative, but it is also quite provocative.
Provocative is putting it mildly. I was reading through the source material for today, specifically a text titled, "Substitution, Are You an Identity Thief?"
Right.
And I have to admit, I froze. I physically stopped reading. Because it asks a question that feels almost dangerous to ask. It asks, is it possible that our kindness as adults is actually a crime against a child's personality?
It's a heavy question.
It is.
But it is the necessary question if we're serious about, human development.
It really shook me. And the terminology used in the source material, it isn't gentle. It introduces this concept of substitution, or in the original context, Allah.
Right.
And it goes so far as to label a helpful, loving parent as an identity thief. I think for a lot of us, myself included, our first instinct is to get defensive. We think, whoa, hold on.
Of course.
I'm just helping. I'm making lunch. I'm tying shoes. I'm buttoning coats. How does that make me a criminal?
I understand that shock completely. It sounds incredibly harsh because we associate theft with malice.
Right, with bad intentions.
Exactly. We think of a thief as someone who breaks into a house at night to steal jewelry. But in the science of building a human, in the Montessori philosophy, theft can happen through an excess of love.
An excess of love.
Yes. The term identity thief is used here to wake us up. It's meant to shatter the illusion that doing everything for a child is the same as caring for the child.
So we're essentially talking about a case of mistaken identity in parenting. We think we are being the hero, saving the day, smoothing the path.
And then the script flips.
The script flips, and we're actually the villain in the story of their development.
In a manner of speaking, yes. The premise we are exploring today is what happens when an adult replaces a child's will with their own, when we think for them, move for them, and want for them.
Okay.
The source calls this substitution, and the argument, which is backed by a lot of observation, is that this act, however well-intentioned, prevents the child from constructing their own self.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because I know listeners right now are thinking about the 20 things they did for their kids this morning just to get out the door.
Yes, of course.
We need to define this clearly so we don't just feel guilty, but actually understand the mechanics of it. What exactly is substitution?
Precisely. Guilt is useless here. Awareness is transformative. So let's look at the definition provided in our source material. Substitution is not merely helping.
It's not just lending a hand.
No. It is described as the act of an adult occupying the child's soul.
Occupying the soul. That sounds almost military, like an invasion of a country.
It is an invasion of space. Think of the child's personality not as a finished object, but as a territory, a landscape that is being discovered and mapped by the child.
Okay, I like that metaphor.
This territory is where their preferences, their abilities, their will, it all resides there. When an adult steps in and says, I will do this, I will decide this, I will feel this, they are effectively planting their flag in that territory.
They're colonizing it.
They are occupying the space where the child's self should be growing.
So if I can just stick with that geography metaphor for a second. If the child is a developing nation trying to establish its own government, its own infrastructure,
Yes.
the helpful parent is like a colonial power coming in and saying, don't worry, we'll run things. It's more efficient this way.
That is a very, very apt analogy. The colonial power might say, we are building roads, we are making things efficient. But the local population, the child's spirit, is suppressed.
They don't learn to govern themselves.
Never. They become dependent on the occupier.
So the intent of the adult might be efficiency. We need to leave in 5 minutes. Or it might be affection. Oh, I don't want you to struggle. But the impact is occupation.
Exactly. The source material is very clear on this point. Adults intend to be helpful, but the result is that they live the child's life instead of the child.
Wow.
And if I live your life for you, you do not exist. You become a shadow. And that is why the term identity thief is, in this context, scientifically accurate.
Because you're stealing the opportunity.
You are stealing the opportunity for the identity to emerge.
That distinction between intent and impact seems to be the crux of this entire building humans philosophy. We judge ourselves by our intent. I love my child, but the child develops based on the impact. I am not allowed to do anything.
That is the tragedy we're trying to prevent. The child does not experience your good intentions. They experience your intervention.
Right.
And if that intervention is constant, it becomes a barrier to their own existence. It tells them in 1,000 small ways every day, you are not necessary in your own life.
That is a crushing message to receive. You are not necessary. Let's get specific here because the source material breaks this down into different types of substitution.
It does.
It's not just one thing. And the first one is the most obvious, the one we all see every single day. It calls it physical substitution, or as the text dubs it, the I'll do it syndrome.
Yes, the most visible form of it.
The scenario painted in the text is just so relatable. A child is struggling with a simple physical task. Maybe it's a toy they can't get open, or a button on a shirt, or trying to tie a shoelace.
We've all been there.
You see the little fingers fumbling, maybe they get frustrated, maybe a little whine starts. What is the adult impulse in that moment?
The impulse is immediate and it's almost biological, isn't it? We want to jump in. We want to stop the struggle. We feel a tension in our own bodies when we watch them fumble.
Yes. You feel it in your own hands.
You do, and we say, here, let me do it. Or oftentimes we don't even speak. We just reach out, grab the object, finish the task in 2 seconds, and hand it back.
Right. And it feels like kindness. It feels like I am saving you from distress.
Right.
But the expert analysis in our source says we are sending a silent, destructive message in that moment. What is that translation? What is the child hearing when we grab the button?
The translation is, your effort is useless.
Ouch.
I am the one who can do it.
Your effort is useless. That's brutal.
It is. And even worse, it teaches the child a hierarchy of competence. It says, you are incompetent. I am the giant who possesses the magic to make the world work. You do not possess this magic.
So it's not just about the one task. It's about a worldview.
It's a worldview. When we intervene instantly, we destroy agency. We are teaching the child that their role in life is to wait for the giant to act.
That creates a dependency loop, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They struggle, they wait, we rescue, they learn to wait faster next time.
It creates total learned helplessness. But let's look at the metaphor the source uses because it's really quite beautiful and heartbreaking. It describes character as a house the child is trying to build.
Building humans.
Yes.
Literally building a house of character. I like that.
Yes. So imagine every struggle, every button buttoned, every hue tied, every toy successfully manipulated is a brick.
Okay.
The child picks up the brick, which is heavy for them, and tries to place it on the wall. They tremble, they sweat. It is hard work.
And the helpful adult comes along.
And the adult says, oh, that looks heavy, and takes the brick out of their hands and places it on the wall for them. Perfectly.
And the wall gets built faster.
The wall gets built faster. The adult looks at the wall and says, look, the wall is built. Aren't you happy? But the child looks at their own hands, and their hands are empty.
They didn't build it.
They did not build it. They
No.
did not gain the strength from lifting that brick. They didn't learn the skill of placing it just right.
That is such a powerful image. We focus on the result. The button is buttoned, the shoes are on. But the child needs the process. By substituting our hand for theirs, we are physically removing the bricks of their character.
And if you remove enough bricks, you have no house. You have a child who physically grows larger, but internally remains an infant.
So you end up with an adult-sized body with the self-confidence of a toddler.
That's a good way to put it. Physical substitution kills self-confidence before it has a chance to grow. Confidence comes from competence. Competence comes from struggle. If you remove the struggle, you remove the competence and you kill the confidence. It's a direct chain of events.
You know, before we move on from physical substitution, I want to dwell on the why for a moment, from the adult's perspective. We talked about time pressure being late for school.
Yes, that's a big one.
But I think there's something emotional there too. Why is it so physically painful for us to watch a child struggle?
That is a profound question, and it touches on our own anxieties. It's not really about them in that moment, it's about us.
What do you mean?
When we see a child struggling with a shoe, we don't just see a shoe, We project our own fear of failure onto them. We think, if they fail at this, they will feel bad. I don't want them to feel bad.
So we're trying to protect them from the feeling of failure.
We want to curate a frictionless existence for them because we equate friction with suffering.
Yes, that's it. We think struggle equals suffering. But what you're saying, what the source is saying, is that struggle equals growth.
Precisely. In biology, stress is necessary for growth. A muscle does not grow unless it encounters resistance. A bone doesn't get stronger unless it bears weight. If you lifted the weights for me at the gym, would I get stronger?
I wish. That would be a great service.
Yeah.
But no, you'd stay weak.
Of course. And yet, we lift the weights for our children constantly. We are creating what Montessori called spiritual atrophy.
Spiritual atrophy.
The child's will, their ability to initiate and complete a task, it atrophies because it is never used. And then we wonder why, at age 15 or 20, they have no drive, they have no grit.
We complain that they have no resilience.
Well, we stole their grit when they were 3, one button at a time.
That brings up a specific example I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah.
What about when the task is actually too hard? Like, say, a 2-year-old trying to tie shoelaces. They physically can't do it yet. If we don't help, aren't we just setting them up to fail and get frustrated?
This is such an important point. This is where the nuance of the active observer, which we will discuss more later, comes in. We are not saying abandon the child.
Yeah.
We are saying do not substitute. There is a middle ground. The source material calls it scaffolding.
Scaffolding, like on a building.
Yes. When you build a building, the scaffold allows the workers to reach higher than they could on their own, but the workers are still doing the building.
The scaffold doesn't lay the bricks.
Exactly. In parenting, scaffolding means providing just enough help to allow the child to succeed, but leaving the core effort to them.
So, using the shoe example, how would that look?
The identity thief would say, move your hands and just tie the shoe.
Right. The takeover.
The active observer, who is scaffolding, might get down on their level and say, I see you were trying to make the loops. That's the tricky part. Here, let me harness one loop still while you pull the other one through.
Ah, so you become a tool for them.
You act as an assistant, not the boss.
Yeah.
You bridge the gap between their current ability and the task, but you let them cross the bridge.
That's a huge distinction. The identity thief takes the project away. The active observer joins the project as a junior partner.
Yes, you become their assistant. And think about the dignity in that. If you are my boss and you shove me aside to do my work, I feel small and incompetent.
Yeah, demoralized.
But if you come alongside me and hold the flashlight while I fix the engine, I feel supported and capable. We want our children to feel supported, not supplanted.
Supported, not supplanted. That should be on a t-shirt.
It's sure.
I want to talk about another aspect of physical substitution that the source hints at. The idea of moving for them. I see this all the time. Parents carrying children who can clearly walk. Parents feeding children who can hold a spoon.
This is very, very common. And it comes from a place of love, but we treat children as if they are paralyzed or invalid. Montessori observed that children have this powerful natural drive for what she called functional independence.
Functional independence.
They want to do it. Help me to do it myself, is the silent cry of the child. When we carry a 4-year-old who can walk perfectly well, we are literally suppressing their physical development. We are teaching them that their legs are for decoration and transport is provided by the giant.
But again, the parent says, but they're tired. Or, it's faster this way.
And we return to the identity thief. Are we stealing their endurance? A child builds endurance by walking when they are a little bit tired.
Right. You have to push past the first feeling of fatigue.
If we rescue them the moment they show fatigue, they never push past that threshold. They never discover their own reserves of energy. Their body never learns to adapt.
It's almost like we are afraid of our children experiencing any discomfort at all.
We are terrified of it. We live in a culture that is terrified of discomfort. But by preventing small discomforts, like tired legs, we create a massive existential discomfort down the road. The feeling of incompetence.
And that's a much worse feeling.
A child who feels incompetent is not a happy child. They are an anxious child. They become clingy. Why? Because they know deep down, I cannot survive without this giant. That is a terrifying worldview to have.
So the clinginess we complain about, Mommy, do it for me.
Yeah.
That's actually a monster we helped create.
In many cases, yes. We created the dependency, and then we complain about the dependency. We stole their identity as a capable being, and we replaced it with an identity as a dependent being. And then we ask, why won't you be independent? It's a cruel irony.
That is convicting, truly.
Exactly.
So physical substitution is about actions, about the
Yeah.
body. But the source material goes deeper, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
It introduces mental substitution. And honestly, this part scared me a bit more. It feels more insidious.
It is more insidious because it is harder to see. Physical substitution is visible. You see the hands moving. Mental substitution is invisible. It is about deciding the child's feelings and the reality for them.
The examples given in the source are things I hear on the playground, or, if I'm being honest, in my own kitchen, every single day.
I'm sure.
You are cold, put on a jacket. Or, you are hungry, eat now.
Precisely. Let's just take that first phrase and analyze it. You are cold.
It sounds like a fact. It sounds like an observation of reality.
But who is feeling the cold?
The adult.
The adult. The adult feels a chill, or the adult looks at the thermometer and intellectualizes that it should be cold outside. The child, however, might be running around, their metabolic rate is completely different, they might feel perfectly warm.
Okay.
When the adult says, you are cold, they are telling the child, your internal sensors are wrong. My reality is the correct reality.
You're overriding their sensory input. You're telling them not to trust their own skin.
We are substituting our judgment for their actual senses. This is the physiological disconnect. We are training the child to ignore the signals from their own body.
And if you do that enough times, you're hungry, you're full, you're tired, you're cold, what happens to the child's ability to even know themselves?
They stop listening. They stop listening to the inner voice. This is the crisis of mental substitution. The child ceases to trust their own body. Am I cold? I don't know. I have to look at my mother's face to see if I am cold. They cease to trust their own mind. Do I want this? I don't know. I have to see if my father thinks it is a good choice.
They wait for the adult to dictate reality to them.
Yes. And the source describes the result of this as creating shadows.
That's the term that really stuck with me. Shadows instead of real humans.
Think about the physics of a shadow. A shadow has no substance of its own. It has no three-dimensional form. It only exists in relation to something else. It only moves when the object casting it moves.
It has no will.
No will.
No.
If we practice mental substitution, we create children who are shadows of our will. They exist only as a reflection of us. They cannot make decisions. They cannot regulate their own bodies. They cannot identify their own desires.
This connects back to the identity thief idea perfectly. If I am a shadow, I have no identity. My identity was stolen by the person who told me what to feel and think for 18 years.
And what happens when that shadow becomes an adult and the object casting the shadow, the parent, is gone?
They're lost.
They're completely lost. They look for a partner or a boss to tell them who they are because they never built the internal machinery to determine it for themselves. They are the people who change their entire personality based on who they are dating.
Or the employees who can't function without explicit step-by-step instructions.
Yes. They lack initiative because their initiator was always external.
I want to circle back to mental substitution for a minute because I think this is where so many of us get tripped up without even realizing it. The physical stuff is easier to spot.
Yeah.
But the mental stuff, it's woven into our language. Another example. You're okay, you're not hurt.
Ah, you're okay. Perhaps the most common and damaging lie that well-intentioned parents tell.
A kid falls down on the playground, scrapes a knee, starts crying. The parent rushes over and immediately says, you're okay. Shh, you're okay, get up.
Mm-hmm.
The source material would classify this as a prime example of mental substitution, right?
Absolutely. It is the textbook definition. Think about what is happening biologically in that moment. The child's nervous system is screaming pain, shock, fear. Adrenaline is pumping.
Right, it's a real physical experience.
It is. And the adult, who is not in that body, who is not feeling those signals, says, no pain, no shock, no fear. It is, by definition, gaslighting.
Gaslighting a child. That is a hard pill to swallow for a loving parent.
It's very hard, but it's true. We are telling them that their internal reality is false. And if we do this enough, the child learns to distrust their own pain signals.
What are the long-term consequences of that?
They might grow up to be an adult who stays in abusive relationships because their internal alarm bells are screaming, this is not okay. But they've been trained to ignore them.
Because the authority figure is saying, this is fine, you're just being sensitive.
I feel bad, but I must be okay because the authority figure says, I am okay. They might ignore serious medical symptoms. They lose their intuition, which is one of our most vital survival mechanisms.
That is a staggering connection to make. From a simple, you're okay on the playground, to ignoring intuition as an adult 30 years later.
Yeah. The threads of childhood stretch all the way to the grave. We are building the human now. This is why the series is called Building Humans. You cannot put a faulty foundation in and expect the roof to stay up 40 years later.
So what is the alternative in that moment? The kid falls. We can't say you're okay. Do we scream, oh my God, you're dying?
No, no, that is the other extreme. And that is also substituting your panic for their reaction.
Right, making it about you.
The active observer simply validates. They get down, they make eye contact, and they narrate the truth. Wow, you fell down. That looked like it was scary.
You state the facts.
State the facts, and then you ask questions. You return the ownership of the experience to them. Does your knee hurt? Can you show me where?
You make them the expert on their own body.
Yes, you are crying. It seems like that really hurt. You are confirming their reality. You're saying, yes, your inner voice is right. You are hurt. This builds confidence. It builds sanity. It tells the child, I see you, and your experience is real.
It seems so simple when you lay it out like that, but it requires us to stop trying to fix the crying.
That is the root of it. We want the crying to stop because it makes us uncomfortable.
It's annoying, or it's embarrassing in public.
Exactly. So we say, you're okay to silence the noise. In that moment, we are prioritizing our auditory comfort over their psychological truth.
Wow, prioritizing our auditory comfort over their psychological truth. That is hard.
It is the identity thief again. I am stealing your right to be sad or hurt or angry because I want a peaceful afternoon.
Let's talk about the you're hungry example from the source again, because this one is huge, especially in cultures where food is the primary expression of love.
Oh, yes. The clean plate club or the empty plate club.
The classic struggle at the dinner table. The parent says, eat 3 more bites of your broccoli. The child says, but I'm full. And the parent says, no, you're not. You barely ate. Eat.
This is a classic violation of a biological imperative. Every organism, left to its own devices, knows how much fuel it needs. A baby knows when to stop nursing. A toddler knows when they are full.
They have that internal regulator.
They have a perfect one. And when we force those 3 extra bites, we are systematically breaking the connection between the stomach and the brain.
We are breaking the fullness signal.
Yes. We are teaching them, do not eat when you are hungry. Eat when the giant says it is time. Do not stop when you are full. Stop when the plate is empty. Is it any surprise that as a society, we have epidemics of obesity and eating disorders?
Because we spent 18 years training people to ignore their stomach.
We substituted our visual estimate of a proper portion size for their internal biological feedback.
And again, it comes from a good place. The parent is thinking, I don't want them to be malnourished. I want them to grow.
Of course. Again, intent versus impact. The intent was nutrition. The impact was a broken relationship with food and body that can last a lifetime.
It really requires a massive amount of trust, doesn't it? Trusting that a child won't starve themselves. Trusting that a child actually knows their own body better than we do.
Montessori called the child the spiritual embryo.
The spiritual embryo.
Just as the physical embryo knows how to grow arms and legs in the womb without our help, the spiritual embryo knows how to build the person. Our job is not to build it for them. Our job is to protect the environment so they can build it themselves. We have to trust the architect inside the child.
So we've established the crime. We are the identity thieves. We are occupying their souls through physical and mental substitution. We're creating shadows. This is all pretty bleak.
It can feel that way.
Now, we have to talk about the solution, the cure. Because if I can't do things for them and I can't tell them what to feel or think, what is my role? Am I just a piece of furniture, a silent observer in the corner?
No, absolutely not. You are not furniture. You are essential. But we have to redefine the nature of your role. The source material pivots here to the cure, and the cure is redefining love as observation.
Love is observation. That sounds so passive to a lot of parents who are used to love as action. We're trained to think love is a verb, and that verb means doing stuff for someone.
It feels passive, but it is actually highly active. It requires immense discipline and energy. The Foundation's definition of service is beautiful here. It says, service is stepping back to let the child step forward.
I love that. Stepping back to let them step forward. It's like a dance.
It is a dance. We need to differentiate between two parenting styles mentioned in the source, the active controller versus the active observer.
Okay, let's profile them. The active controller. This is our identity thief, right?
Yes, the active controller is driven by impatience. They're driven by the need to fix. They see a problem, they solve it, they see a need, they fill it. They are the pilot of the child's life.
They're in the cockpit.
They're sitting in the cockpit, hands on the controls, flying the plane.
And the child is just a passenger.
A passenger in their own life, strapped in the back, looking out the window, but having no control over the destination or the altitude. They are being chauffeured through existence.
And the active observer,
Mm.
the Montessori ideal. What does that look like?
The active observer is present. They are not absent. This is a key distinction. We are not talking about neglect.
That's important. This isn't just letting them run wild.
Not at all. The active observer is watching intensely. They are studying the child, but they are practicing presence without interference.
The source material uses a specific analogy here that I think is just brilliant. It moves us from the pilot to the air traffic controller.
Yes. This visual metaphor is really the centerpiece of the cure. It's the practical tool. If the child is the pilot, meaning they must fly their own plane, they must live their own life,
Which they must.
then the adult's role is that of the air traffic controller.
Let's break down the job description of an air traffic controller, because I think most of us have a vague idea, but what do they actually do?
Okay, so they sit in a tower high above the action. They watch the radar. They see the big picture that the pilot, who is down in the cockpit, cannot see.
You have a different perspective.
A different, wider perspective. They ensure the environment is safe for the plane to fly. They provide data. There is a storm system moving in from the west. The runway is clear for landing there. They are a safety net.
A safety net.
If a crash is imminent, if two planes are on a collision course, they intervene to prevent catastrophe. But, and this is the most important part, they never jump into the cockpit and take the yoke from the pilot.
Because they can't. They are physically in the tower. The pilot is the only one who can fly the plane.
Exactly. And if the air traffic controller tries to fly the plane from the tower, or if they constantly shout every micro adjustment to the pilot, a little to the left, no, a little to the right, watch your altitude, the pilot never learns.
The pilot never learns to feel the plane. They never learn to handle turbulence on their own. They just become a robot following instructions.
They would crash the moment the radio went out.
So in parenting terms, active observation means I am in the tower. I am watching my child struggle with that button. I am checking my radar. Is there a fire? Is there immediate physical danger? No. So I stay in the tower.
You stay in the tower, you take a deep breath, you wait, you watch, you let the pilot struggle with the turbulence of the button, because that struggle is how they learn to fly.
And I need to ask that internal question the source suggests. Is my help really needed right now, or am I just being impatient?
That is the mantra of the active observer. Is this a crash, or is this just learning? And 99% of the time, what we perceive as a crisis, a spilled cup of milk, a backward shoe, a tantrum over a jacket, is just learning.
It's just turbulence.
It is not a crash. It does not require the air traffic controller to sound the general alarm.
It requires a lot of self-control on the part of the adult, though. I mean, it's actually harder to be the air traffic controller than the pilot.
It is infinitely harder. It is so much easier to just do the thing yourself. It is agonizing to watch someone you love struggle when you know you could fix it in 1 second. Yes.
But that agony, that restraint, is the price of their independence. That restraint is the highest form of love in this philosophy.
So true love isn't fixing it for them. True love is holding the space for them to learn how to fix it themselves.
Yes. Love is being the safety net, not the replacement for their effort.
I want to spend a little more time on this air traffic controller analogy because I think it's the practical toolkit for our listeners. We said the ATC stays in the tower, but let's talk about the crash. When do we intervene?
That is the crucial question. Because, again, we are not advocating for negligence. We are not saying, let your child play in traffic in the name of independence.
Right. So where's the line? How do you know if it's a real crash or just turbulence?
The line is irreversible harm.
Irreversible harm. Okay, define that. If a child is about to touch a hot stove, you intervene. Immediately and physically. That is potential for severe, irreversible physical damage. If a child is about to run into the street, you intervene. That is life or death. The air traffic controller will absolutely divert the plane if it is about to fly into the side of a mountain.
But if the plane is just bumping around in a storm,
If the child is climbing a small tree in the backyard and might fall a few feet and get a bruise, You watch. You might move closer to be the spotter, to be the safety net, but you let them climb. A bruise is reversible.
And the learning is
The
invaluable.
learning is invaluable. A broken trust in oneself is much harder to reverse than a scraped knee.
So we have to do this rapid risk assessment in our heads all day long. Is this going to kill them or maim them? If the answer is no, then our job is to back off.
Essentially, yes. We have to tolerate a higher level of risk and messiness than modern parenting usually allows. Because risk and mess are where the learning happens. Let's take the spilled milk example. That feels like a crash in the moment, doesn't it?
It feels like a 5-alarm fire. It's a mess. It's sticky. We're late.
It's a crisis. But is it irreversible harm?
No.
No, it is just liquid on a floor. The identity thief parent rushes in, maybe yells, grabs the towel, and furiously wipes it up.
Yeah, just go sit down. I'll handle this.
Exactly. The message is, you are a problem. But the air traffic controller parent stays calm. They are in the tower. They see the spill. They might say, oh, the milk spilled. That's a problem. Here is a towel.
You hand the pilot the tools to fix their own plane.
You empower them. You let them clean it up. Even if they do a bad job at first, the cleanup is part of the flight. It restores their dignity.
That's a huge point.
If I spill it and you clean it, I am a clumsy baby. If I spill it and I clean it, I am a responsible person who made a mistake and then fixed it.
That shift from you made a mess to you can fix this is everything.
It changes the entire definition of failure. Failure is not the end of the world. Failure is just a problem to be solved. But we can only learn that if the adult doesn't solve it for us instantly.
I imagine for parents listening right now, this feels like a huge shift. It's like learning a whole new way to parent.
Yeah.
Do you recommend they try this in small doses?
Yes, absolutely. Don't try to change everything overnight. You'll exhaust yourself. Start with one thing. Pick one time of day, maybe the morning routine, which is always chaotic.
Okay.
Decide. Tomorrow morning, I will be the air traffic controller of the shoes. And only the shoes.
Just the shoes. Not the coat, not the teeth, just the shoes.
Just the shoes. Sit on your hands if you have to. Bite your tongue. Watch them struggle. Count to 30. See what happens. Wait for them to ask for help.
And if they do ask, I can't do it.
Then you scaffold. You give the minimum help needed. It looks like the tongue is stuck. Try pulling on that part first. You're a consultant, not the CEO.
And then you celebrate the effort, not just the perfect result.
You celebrate the independence. The words, you did it yourself, are the greatest praise a child can hear. It's not good boy or good girl, which is a judgment from you. It's you did it. It's an acknowledgement of their agency and power.
It's empowering just talking about it. I feel like I want to go home and just let my kids ignore me for a while.
It is a paradox, isn't it? The less you do for them in this controlling way, the more you truly give them. You give them the greatest gift possible. Themselves.
This has been a really profound deep dive. We started with this shocking, almost offensive idea of being an identity thief. We explored the mechanics of physical and mental substitution, and we've landed on this beautiful, liberating role of the air traffic controller.
It is a journey from occupying their space to liberating their spirit.
So to wrap up, I want to summarize the key takeaways for our listeners who might be feeling a mix of inspiration and maybe a little retroactive guilt, which you said we are not doing.
No guilt, only awareness. Today is a new day to observe, not control.
The key shift is recognizing that our help can actually be a hindrance if it replaces the child's own effort. We need to check our I'll do it syndrome at the door.
Step 1.
We need to stop telling them how they feel and start asking them, validating their reality.
Step 2.
And finally, we need to climb up into that air traffic control tower, trust our pilots, and let them fly the plane, even if it's a little bumpy.
That is the essence of it. Support the truth of who they are, and you will empower the human they are becoming.
For those of you who want to go deeper into this philosophy, and believe me, there is so much more to explore, we want to direct you to the Dar El Kalima Publishing House. Their website is darelkalima.com. They have the resources to help you, as the source says, give your child their life back.
It is a worthwhile investment. The resources there really explain how to practically implement this in daily life, room by room, age by age.
And we are just getting started with this Building Humans series. What's on the horizon for our next deep dive?
Next time, we're going to tackle the huge concept of character. We've mentioned the house of character today, but next time we will look at the blueprints.
The blueprints, okay.
How does a child build their moral compass? How do they distinguish right from wrong without us simply dictating it to them and creating that shadow self again?
That sounds incredibly important. I can't wait.
It will be a fascinating conversation.
A huge thank you to the Al Mahaba Foundation and Dar el Kalima Publishing House for making this conversation possible. And thank you, our listener, for being willing to question your own kindness for the sake of your child's growth.
And remember, it is never too late to stop substituting and start supporting.
We will see you next time on Building Humans. Until then, we leave you with our motto,
Love for all.
and service for everyone.